I get a text message from a very unlikely person, the star of the 7/5 documentary, America's Dirtiest Cop, Mike Dowd. He had met me in 18. Now it's 2021. He had heard that my dog died. He was going to a law enforcement retreat in New Jersey. Didn't really want to go, but he said to me, "Hey, would you like to go?" I took him up on the offer. He was shocked how quickly I took him up. Matt, I had to get out of myself. So I went to this law enforcement retreat in 2021. And at this point, I never really discussed anything about myself to anybody. I would never tell anybody in law enforcement that I had a drug problem. I wouldn't tell my fellow coworkers in corrections I had a drug problem. The inmates would never know. Nobody knew nothing about me.
I really thought you had been telling everybody these things.
No. I told them nothing, Matt. All they knew was a clean-cut guy came from New York. Nothing. 2021, I go to the law enforcement retreat. And I watch guys like our friend Kevin Donaldson telling his story. And I'm like, holy shit, these guys are telling on themselves. Matt, I never told on myself. I always thought like a cop. I'm a guy that gets pulled over for speeding. The officer said, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" No. I don't, yeah, I was going, listen, we can get to that point later if you're not going to write me a ticket. But we're not starting off there. So I went to the law enforcement retreat and I got going to do my first podcast in 2021. And I started to tell my story, and I've been telling my story. And I finally released my book, 14th and 2nd. And the healing that's gone on has been tremendous. And, the saying is, you're as sick as your secrets. I totally believe that. And I got out and I started telling people, this is what happened to me. And I got on some big platforms, and I consider you, Matt, a big platform. I'm really, brother, it's a big deal that I'm talking to you because I respect you, number one. And number two, the fact is that you're a relatable guy. Now, yes, you did time and I was a CO. We're both human beings that were in the system. Right. I was getting a paycheck to watch guys like you. You were doing your time to get out of the prison. And it's not what you did yesterday, it's what you're doing today. So I think that there's a very thin line between COs. And again, for those that want to beat me up for this, not everybody's in for being a Charlie Manson, and not everybody's a pedophile, and that's a separate issue. But the rank and file inmates and the rank and file COs know it's a thin line. And anytime they think they can't be behind those bars, let them have a blowout domestic situation, or let them have a family member that turns on them or something. We don't know what will happen.
I've watched them come and get the COs.
You watch them. So there you go.
Yeah.
So, we watch. And I used to work with the team that used to take the COs out of the prison. Okay, we got to go get so-and-so that's been bringing contraband in. It's a sad day, but it happens. So I'm telling my story now. And I'm getting out there and I'm telling it. And it's like, Matt, here's what I got now. I know what it's like now to go to bed and not take a series of naps. I go to bed at night and I fall asleep. But I stay asleep till it's time to get up. I used to sleep with my arms crossed on my chest. Matt, I never could interact with humans too well because I didn't know what chess game you were playing with me. So it would always have to be short, incidental conversations. How's the weather, this or that. Mike Dowd said to me recently, he says, God, he goes, you got a personality, you talk. Because prior to this, I was carrying all this weight. And I had a lot of shame, How do you tell guys you worked with that had opinions about people that use drugs, that had opinions about people that broke the law? Hey, yeah, I was one of them guys. The guys that got locked up? I used to go seek drugs too. Or there's guys doing time for marijuana, as you know. There's guys doing time for marijuana. And if you're doing narcotics, you're doing a lot more than marijuana in terms of breaking the law. So the dog helped me, Star helped me in every capacity of my life. And so many things occurred. Liz Berger, a New York native, wrote a song about her, Star's Journey, that's done unbelievable on Apple and other platforms. I think there's over 72 million downloads on her song alone. The dog has been in so many curriculums. The dog is talked about she's larger than life because what she was able to do was she was the ultimate underdog that came back. And you know, Matt, it's about presentation. When I had Star, nobody ever asked me, is that a pit bull? No. They saw a loving Buddha of a dog. I had people who say to me, I don't even like dogs, Charlie. That dog has got such good healing vibes. She was a very smart dog, Matt. She would be able to detect stuff. I used to go do talks. She knew when to smile. She knew when to get serious, lay down, sit up. And I used to take her to Alzheimer's events, and I won't forget this one gentleman, because I knew I'd talk about this one day, that hugged me and hugged my dog. After he asked if it was okay, I asked him, what's your background? He says, I'm a federal judge. So this dog interacted with people from every walk of life. And you know what? If it wasn't for this dog, I'd still be suffering, because unless you identify what the issue is. So let's talk about this for a moment. So my initial addiction was, as a kid, was stuffing my face with sugar. Then I went to drugs. Then last thing I did was alcohol. And then I'm clean all these years, and I was eating myself to death, Matt. After Star had died, no, this was before Star died. In 2018, when I wrote the book, and that was a good reason why I wrote the book, I found myself, I was eating myself to death. I had gotten obese. And today, it's not the story anymore. I only eat once a day, and I do that because it gives me 23 hours of living time every day. And I need to live and not eat. Now, some people don't have a problem with food. I do, okay? I could never eat 6 small meals a day. Like people say, you have these little baby meals, you do 6 of them. No, I want them all at one time. I want to eat like it's Thanksgiving, and I want to do that a couple times a day if I can. So now I eat once a day. My health is good. And every part of my life has improved. And I'm really doing the best I've ever done. It took me a long time, Matt. I'm 57 plus years old now, and it's been a long time coming. But think about this. Me and you wouldn't speak if it wasn't for this dog. I'd have nothing to tell you. What would I tell you, Matt? I worked in corrections and I started a business and did well. I mean, what story would that be? But the dog made me have to get honest. And so one thing I don't do now is I don't like judgmental people, but I really don't like to opinionate on anything, because I have no idea. When I'm in a store and somebody comes by me and they're not in a good mood, or they almost could hit me because they're not aware, I have no idea what news they got. I have no idea why my fellow human beings are acting the way they're acting. I just know that when this dog died, there were people out there that were kind enough that kept calling me until I answered the phone. There was a guy who might be America's dirtiest cop, that if he didn't get me to that law enforcement, I would have never met Kevin. I would have never gone on a podcast. Nothing would have happened. And you know what the crazy part of all this? Out of all the fans that Star has gotten, and she got fans from every walk of life, we know people on every continent now, is the cops have really rallied. I mean, they put her in the Law Enforcement magazine in New York, the Blue magazine in November, wrote a real nice article for her. So the police have rallied, a lot of inmates that had done time, and now I got 14th and 2nd. I got to figure out how to get this book in the prison system, because I think there are a lot of people that need a roadmap out of personal hell. They're at war with themselves. And when you're at war with yourself, Matt, there's no light of the day. There's no, this life doesn't come with instructions. And I know your story, and I've spent enough time listening to you talk about your story. We don't get up, most cases, to get up in one day and say, you know what, I want to rob banks. We go to work for a mortgage company, and we all know that you bend the rules a little bit in every line of work. Hey, listen, somebody that's a server bends the rules. They get one meal on their shift, and that's it. Well, if they're dipping into the cheesecake case earlier, they're bending the rules. And so much with the mortgage. If this paperwork has to have everything, and you could just make this we don't know how we get where we're going, but we get there. And where I'm going with all this is this. I now know that I've got to stay in the light, talk about what's going on, and help others that need this roadmap. And people have no way out of this. If they're addicted today, they don't know what to do. If they have family problems, they think their problem is the biggest thing, and to them it is. And I really think that my story can help someone pick up the pieces, because when we're done, as you know, when you get out of prison, like where do you start? How do you get back to life? What do you do? And I certainly did not know how to act when I got out of the monastery. Then I got out of the rehab, and then I went to work for the Department of Corrections. Probably I should have went to work for a normal, regular company, but my God, my higher power said, you know what? You're going to have to work in prison, and you're going to have to be around guys that were just like you. And Matt, you know this. There were a lot of guys doing time that didn't do half the stuff that the guys that are not doing time. The law in this country, you know, if you don't have the capital, you'll get the punishment. I mean, that's really the way I see it. If you don't have the capital, you're going to get the punishment. And I always found that on death row too. You know, you look over the cases. Well, this guy killed somebody, he's got the death penalty. Well, this guy doing time killed 3 people. They didn't give him the death penalty. That county didn't have the resources to go after a death penalty case. So I think that prison, I don't think, that's a weak word. I know that the prison gave me what I needed. Business gave me the money that I thought would make me happy, but the door gave me the real life. So today I find this to be the truest statement. My favorite movie, It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. Ingratitude is an illness. We're not grateful for all little things. We're not going to be grateful for the big things. And a lot of times I realize in my relationship, if I'm grateful for my relationship and I treat Jen like the first date I went on with her, I'm happy. But when I don't appreciate her and I get complacent, then it's miserable. And miserable people bring happy people down. Okay? It's that simple.
I wanted to let you guys know that I have a Patreon account. If you're interested in joining the Patreon account, it's got 3 tiers. The top tier, you actually get a different con man painting every single month. If you're already joined and you're already supporting me, I really appreciate that. If you haven't joined yet and you're interested in joining, I'm going to leave the contact information for Patreon in the description. Thank you very much for watching the video.
It's funny because I had all these questions kind of laid out, and you've kind of systematically hit, you know, every single thing down. You know, like I had actually, you know, jotted down, you know, like I was like, you know, but you hit them all. Like I was like, well, how'd you track the dog down? You know, like, you know, there are all these little things. But you've definitely, yeah, I can't believe you've just been telling this story since last year.
Yes.
You definitely have it a good way of leading from, you know, your transitions are good. You're chronologically you're good. Yeah, it's a good story. It's funny. You're saying the same stuff that I say all the time about like being humble, being appreciative, you know, that sort of thing. Like that makes getting through the day easier when you're appreciative and you're humble, you know? So those are the things that help me get through the day.
Matt, for some reason, I think human beings are real comical. They want to plot out the rest of their life. They want no storms. They want everything to be. That's just not the way it is.
No.
Even the lion, even the lion in the jungle's got stress.
Right.
Okay? He's got to be up on his game. He's got to have eyes in the back of his head. But humans get this false feeling. That's why people reminisce a lot, because it's safe to go back because that happened already. Or they look in the future because it didn't happen yet to give themselves some anxiety. But life is in session. And as you know, and I know, and one of the things I started to bring to inmates when I was doing my trash and also working, I'd say, you're doing all this time. And even if you had a job that paid $10 an hour, $12 an hour, you'd be able to eat what you want and this, and this. And I think that prisons of the future in America or globally will be the school that guys didn't get growing up, or will address whatever issues that they are supposed to address. You know, secrecy is real bad, Matt. And, you know, when you went off course, or I went off course with the drugs, right? It would have been nice to put my hand up and say, look, I'm making some bad mistakes here. But I would have been judged, and I would have known that. So I was secret about it. The same thing about when you go off course. You just don't know, you know, you just go off course and there's no coming back. And I've talked to a lot of guys, and they said, you know, Charlie, I just got in deeper and deeper and deeper, and I just couldn't get out. I couldn't turn the car around. I'm just hoping in the future, and I'm hoping with these podcasts, people realize that we're all pretty much the same. We pretty much all want the same thing. I mean, we all want to be generally happy. We want to be content. And we want to be able to, something in this country so much, Matt, it's become money, 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 that a lot of people don't even have hobbies. If you ask them what they like to do, they don't even know what to tell you.
Right.
And it's changed a lot. But, I'm hoping to get out there more. And I'm hoping that I can have an impact with the guys that are doing time. Because remember this, Matt, there's always hope. Even for the death row inmate that would say to us or say to me, there's no hope. There's no hope. I say, you still got a family, you still got visits, and you just don't know the sentence hasn't been carried out. So hope needs to always be kept alive, even with illnesses. And, addiction is a terminal illness. And for someone like myself, if I would ever relapse, it would kill me, Matt. It would kill me because I've been away from that so long. Just one hit of deadly fentanyl, like it that killed my father, or a bad combination, or getting behind the wheel of a car. I mean, it could be death. So I keep that up front.
Well, the hope thing, definitely. I mean, I used to always say that, when guys would say, how do these guys do 20, 30 years? And, a lot of it's hope. It's like when people are filing motions, you just don't know. They're always fighting when, they fought their case for 20 years. I got a buddy who's been fighting his case for like 25 years, but that's how he does his time. And that's that hope gets him through. For me, I was definitely at a point where there was no hope. Like I didn't think I was getting out. I didn't think, I got 26 years. I thought I'm going to do 23 years on 26 years. That's what you're going to get. But I ended up getting out, I ended up doing 13. But the first few years were the worst. But once I started writing and I realized how much I enjoyed it. And then I started writing my fellow inmates, their stories and researching them and writing them. And that gave me a purpose. And that purpose gave me a great, it was a routine. It was something I could look forward to every single day. And I have terrible depression. Like, we're talking about like when I wake up in the morning, like I'm thinking about committing suicide. I'm thinking about how can I just end it? And throughout the day, but it would get a little bit better, but I would make these little tiny goals, no, stop thinking about that. You're just get some coffee, and then I get some coffee, and then it would be like, you have to meet so-and-so at 9 o'clock in the library. So just, you have to meet him, and then you meet him. And then you got to go, you're going to have lunch with Pete. So you got to meet Pete and then by 1 o'clock I was better. And by 3 o'clock I was feeling pretty good. And then by 7 or 8, things were good. Like things are great. And then by bedtime, I was going to take over. I was going to get out of prison. And I was going to take over the world. And then I wake up the next morning and I was ready to commit suicide again.
Wow.
And that to this day is still kind of my cycle. In the morning is the worst for me.
That's good that you're sharing that, Matt, because I don't get up in the morning with vigor and vitality. I kind of greet the day with slumped shoulders. I can admit this. Okay, look, man, I get up and I come to, and it's not this great feeling. People jump out of bed. Thank you. I got a new day. I'm grateful of the first thing. I know that I made it. Okay, because I never go to bed guaranteed on the next day. None of us are. But like you're right. It is. It's tough. I think that we have altered our chemistry through whatever we have, whether it be spending, action, whatever had happened to us has definitely changed the chemistry and what goes on in our thinking.
Yeah, I also I think you do have a good story, that people have to hear that. You know what I mean? They have to know they're not alone. That's like one of the things. That's why like AA is so good. It's to let everybody know everybody has problems, and then they're not alone.
They're not alone, Matt. And the thing is this: the people that point fingers really are doing that as a distraction. And I think that the honesty of people, people always say the good old days were great. Listen, there's a lot of great things about today, because if you read Reddit or you read different things on people or even TikTok, you're seeing people say, look, I got some issues here, man. I'm in pain. So we're all realizing that this does affect all of us. And for me, my vehicle out of pain was Star, but unfortunately she couldn't live forever, Matt. And my real growth came when she passed away, because now there's no distractions. And I live a pretty normal life now. I tend not to do any crazy spending. I tend to live a pretty damn regimented life. And I'm pretty proud of myself, because I've learned to become my own best friend. And I can't stress that enough. You got to become your own best friend, because if you can't tolerate your own company, nobody's going to want to be around you, man. And, you know your life is getting better when the phone rings in a lot more, and people generally want to include you in their plans. So I'm grateful for that. And, it's a good connection. And, I'm grateful for Tyler connecting me with you, Matt. And I hear a lot of good things about you, Matt. So you got to you're doing your own service work to the community. You did your time. And I'm a big advocate for people that do their time. I mean, these felony convictions, you did your time. I think everything should be restored. Voting rights, and I think it should be done. And what it is you're doing your time now, your service work, by helping others and giving others a platform to be able to tell their stories. Because there are going to be people that are going to listen to us today that are at that jumping off place, and they're really sad. And they say, you know what? These two guys, I mean, you went to prison. I put myself in prison. Okay. So there you have it. And we found a way to live, and we do it a day at a time.
Well, I always have these guys that, they write me emails and leave comments that, I help get them through the day and how inspirational I am. And I'm always like, inspirational? Like, I'm not trying to be inspirational. Like, but they find inspiration in the podcast, in my story, in stories that I tell, or just me in general. And, I'm not trying, but it's happening whether I want it to happen or not, which I think is good, because I'm not making an attempt. It's just people just see me and they see me how I'm living and the things I'm doing, and they find inspiration in it. And that's great. I'm glad.
Matt, sometimes all you have to be is consistent for others to say, hey, this guy Matt's consistent. Every time I listen to him on a podcast, he's consistent. And people need consistency, especially in a world with all these crazy headlines, where right now it doesn't matter what's going on in the world right now. We're having a conversation, and this conversation will reach others that need to hear this stuff. And there's substance here. There's no substance in the news headlines, and there's no substance on these headlines that don't give you the whole story. They just bait you to go look at it. So it gives you an opportunity here in these other podcasts that you do to get to meet your guest, understand it. And listen, my story is not going to reach everybody with glowing reviews. Some guy's going to say, I'm bored, yawn. This wasn't for me. And others, they need to hear this. I mean, we all don't have the same interest. And let me tell you, if you're pleasing everyone, you're going to fail, because there's no way to please everyone.
So what are you doing with your book? Are you have you had any interest? Are you trying to?
I self-published it on Amazon. Okay. Right. Book clubs are picking it up. I'm getting some wonderful emails that it's being discovered. It's doing pretty good amongst my friends that have read it. And then, of course, other people order it. So without any publicity other than me talking about it, it's taking a little life of its own. And the reviews are all great, 5-star reviews. I don't want to jinx myself, but people are reading it, and they're coming back with some really cool stuff. And I'm getting a lot of emails on it. So, it's the first time I published a book. I didn't do it for the money. I did it solely to get the story out.
Well, what do you hope? Are you hoping to get a documentary made, or, I mean, is there a goal, or you just, it was therapeutic, you wanted to do it, you felt like it was the right thing to do, and that's the goal's been met?
So far, the goal's been met there, and my goal is to get it in people's hands, and then I believe a documentary can be made out of this story, because it's really a story that people will read. There's a story in there one of the chapters about a death row inmate. He's at the end of his life. There's going to be no way this guy's going to beat his fate with the electric chair. And it was heavy. And I would wind up meeting a journalist to go on a date with her. And a date, she would stand me up. And by her standing me up, I'd be at the right place at the right time to save a human's life. So there's some stories in that book that people are going to need to want to hear, and know that this life of ours is perfectly orchestrated. I don't care how much you want to go back, Matt, and change things. If only it all had to happen the way it happened, because every piece of your life had to happen this way. And so my goal is to get the book into people's hands, have them read it, and to obviously at some point, I think it's worthy. I've had enough people tell me. I've had a couple filmmakers look at it. I had an executive from Sony look at it. So there's got to be some type of interest, because these guys wouldn't look at it if there's no interest.
Right. Well, okay. I mean, have you thought about trying to take it on yourself and do a documentary yourself? Like,
Yes. And that's the way things get done, right? I mean, things get done.
you know, like the problem is like some, you know, who will tell you that's not the way to do it is, you know, production companies. But
Yes.
for every guy that's, you know, they're like, oh, that's not that. No, because of course they want to do it. But the problem is like for everybody who says that this is the way it works, there's always some guy doing the exact opposite and making hundreds of millions of dollars doing it that way. So it's always that guy that breaks through.
Yes. And it's true. So, you know, it will happen. Let me say this to you. It will happen. It may not be this month, but it will happen, because at some point, you know, I sat down in front of David Hoffman, gave an interview, and he's a longtime old school documentary maker. And he said it's worthy of a documentary. I mean, he's in his 80s now. It's not something he would take on, but he did our story and put it on his platform. And people think that. I mean, Kevin certainly thinks that from the Suffering Podcast, and others. We'll see what happens. We'll just see what happens. But the story's not going away. It's an evergreen story. And it's a story of true happiness, because what I thought would make me happy, Matt, did not make me happy. And that's the thing that people need to hear. This should have been in the beginning of the interview.
If you guys didn't know, I do paintings, and if you're interested in a painting, I'm going to leave my contact information in the description beneath the video. Back to the video.
Most people think that money is going to make them happy. Instead of coming up with a dollar amount, I say to people, well, write down on a piece of paper all the things you'd like to do that would make you happy. So somebody might say, I want to go sail fishing. I would like to climb a mountain. I want to do this. I want to go jet skiing. Those things are attainable, because to make $1 million legitimately after taxes, it takes a lot of years. Sometimes it happens quick. Sometimes it does. Most often it doesn't. But I noticed when I got healthier, things would just come about. I want to go on a boat. Well, all of a sudden I got a friend that's got a big boat that's only offering to take me. I got into cars the hard way by buying them. Well, once I got, now because of Star and all this, I got a ton of friends with cars. I got friends with cars that are more exotic than my wildest dreams. Charlie, would you like to do something? So all this stuff can come. People put too much emphasis on trying to make the money rather than focusing on their bucket list of what would make them happy. Forget about the money. What would make them happy? And number one, as you know and I know, is taking care of one's health. Because if you don't have health, you can't do anything. I mean, that's the number one thing. And then after that, really going over a list of the things you want to do. And it's really boring to listen to most people, these financial advisors. Everything is postponed. Happiness is never now. We're planning your retirement. Matt, I hear your commercial as much as I hear retirement commercials. I mean, they got you always prepared to retire. They got you living in fear when you're living in your best years. Think about retirement. Think about retirement. Well, what about living right now? What about doing some of the things you want to do? Why does everything have to be focused on retirement, not working anymore? Right now is the time to don't postpone happiness. I mean, that's the moral of the story of It's a Wonderful Life. To be happy with life and it comes with liabilities. Life is full of liabilities. Life is full of bills. Life is full of people with bad attitudes. But you got to carve out your own happiness. And I got to tell you, it's not something that's up for debate. It's mandatory, because without some happiness, I mean, it's really hard doing life without happiness. I did it for a lot of years.
I was talking to a guy. We did a podcast last night, and I was talking to this guy afterwards who'd been locked up. And we were talking about, he was talking about, he'd read my book and he was reading the second book, and we were talking about it, and he was like, "What's your goal with this?" And I was like, I mean, what do you mean? He was like, well, he's like, I mean, you know, what's your hope that you wrote all these books, you wrote all these stories, like, what are you hoping to do? And I was like, well, I still write. I don't write as much as I did when I was in prison, you know, but I still write. And I said, I'm getting, some of them are getting turned into documentaries. It's a long process. And I said, but that's happening. And I pitch them periodically. And, you know, I talk to producers and production companies and directors, and I'd like to get some turned into documentaries, and I would hope that someday some of these documentaries would be able to spin off and turn into series.
Right.
Like, that's your goal. And I was like, yeah, but I don't think about it. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, because those are, you know, when I write a book, I'm not thinking about completing the book. You know what I mean? Like I'm enjoying researching, writing this scene. I want to write this scene. Oh, I'm going to go back and I need to foreshadow this, what happened here, because I didn't do that before. And so I'm plotting out the whole story, and I'm enjoying getting the documents in and researching and interviewing the guy and taking notes and writing this. And then one day you turn around and you go, oh, wow, I'm basically wrapping up the story. Like, it's going to be, I'm close. And then it's like, okay, it's almost disappointing when you get to the end. Now I got to find another project. So I'm enjoying doing, you know, interviews, posting them, starting another YouTube channel, making little shorts. You know, I do these little shorts.
Yes, I've seen it. I saw them. Yes, on TikTok too.
Yeah. I like doing that. Like, I'm lucky because it's these little things that I do day to day that they don't really make me any money day to day, but every once in a while a check comes in.
Cumulative, yes.
Right. And then I manage every month to pay my bills.
Yes.
I manage, if I want to go to eat every night this week, I could do that.
Right.
You know, if I wanted to get a new car, a much, much nicer car, I could. But the truth is, I have a car that runs well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to make me happy to go get a new Bronco. They're cool.
Yeah.
But I know it won't change. It'll be great for 2 weeks.
Thank you. So you got it, Matt. You know, and that's the key to this life is, here's a line for you. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Comparison is see, I actually wrote down the other one you said, you're as sick as your darkest secret. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I don't write it down. I'm sorry, I forget, and then I think,
yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Say?
Matt, will you edit this a little bit?
Probably not. I can if there's something you want removed.
No, I mean, I'm fine with it, as long as we don't need to get too far off rails. No, that's cool, man. We're having a conversation.
What you said, comparison is the
thief of joy.
That's
I mean, think about it. If you're happy with your build and your nutrition and everything's going good, and you go on Instagram, you see a guy that's built so much better. I mean, it never ends. The thing is this: be grateful for all you have. You know, the desire to want to do better is okay, but man, when you start comparing, you just don't know. And I've learned in this life, if my neighbor's got greener grass than me, that means he's working harder than I am.
Right.
It comes with, and you know, I just know to do more takes more. So
do you ever listen to Jordan Peterson?
Oh, all the time, the doctor.
Oh, yeah,
listen.
you know what
he was funny. Yeah.
I was gonna say he has a similar thing where he's like, don't compare yourself to other people. Just compare
Yes.
yourself to yourself yesterday. You know, am I doing better than yesterday? Well, then that's all that counts.
You know what's funny about Jordan Peterson? You know, there's a short with me on YouTube, just like his. It's like about 90 seconds. I got almost 4 million hits on that, and I talk about a death row inmate, and he's talking about my encounter with a serial killer, and he has one encounter. They're right on top of each other. So I got people, you know, YouTube is funny. People say this guy thinks he's another Jordan Peterson because I'm talking about the death penalty, which I wouldn't. I don't know 1/10 of what that guy knows, the 1/20th. But I have experience, and that's what I can opinionate on my experience. But Dr. Jordan Peterson, man, he's real. He even talks about on one of his reels, a dangerous person's a safe person because they have the ability, like a lion. A lion keeps order, man. You know, people are going to be safe around the lion. So he does cover a lot of different topics on his reels.
Yeah, he does the one. A good man is dangerous, is a monster.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've listened to I've listened to, I bet you I've listened to 100 hours of him. I've listened to some of his stuff 5, 6, 7 times. You know, like I paint, I put on YouTube videos and I paint.
Yeah.
So I listen to documentaries and I listen to Jordan Peterson and I listen to, I listen to these different guys and I paint. So sometimes I hear the same thing, like I'm halfway through it and I'm like, oh, I've heard this one before, and I listen to it. And
yeah. So with Jordan Peterson, it's just wonderful because he is touching some topics that people don't want to touch, and he's not scared to touch them.
No.
And he don't care what the blowback is, whether he's quit Twitter or not. I think that we always need different voices, different opinions on stuff. And the popular opinion isn't the right opinion a lot of times. Okay. So popularity doesn't mean right. And we're going through some growing pains as a nation right now. And if we don't have gratitude, man, we're going to learn gratitude shortly, I think, because these shelves are not going to have all the foods we're used to eating if there's continual wars, continual droughts, continual problems. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, I think, well, I was going to say more about, a lot of things you've said and, it's funny because a lot of the stuff that's just truth is said over and over again, and people say it. It may be the same message. Like I hear the same message over and over and over again, but people don't get it. And then one day somebody will say the same thing that everybody else is saying, but he'll say it in a slightly different way. And you'll go, wow.
Correct.
Like you get it. Suddenly you get it. Why? Because he said it a little different.
Yes. And that's what happens. I mean, that's what happens. And, sometimes people don't have their listening ears on, and they could hear something and then all of a sudden hear something. Matt, how many times have you discovered stuff in the supermarket going down the same aisle and then say, you know what? I never saw this product, or I would like to try this.
Yeah. I always tell people, I say the same thing. I'm going to say the same thing that your mom said to your dad. Cause I got guys that are like 20 years old, 21, 22, and they'll say, man, can I just talk to you for a minute? And I'll talk to them on the phone, and they're like, here's what's going on with me. What do you think? I watch a bunch of your stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, first of all, it's insane that you're even asking me this. And I would say, and I always end up saying, look, I'm going to say the same thing that your mom says and your dad says, which is, I said, which is like, find something you love to do that thing. Don't worry about the money. Don't take a job for the money. Try and find something you enjoy doing. The money will come. The money will not make you happy. And I said, and it's a cliche and it sounds stupid.
Yep.
And it's 100% right.
It's true. It's true, Matt. It's true.
Hey, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. Do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, like the video, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this, and leave a comment in the comment section, and I will try and respond to all of your comments. And I appreciate you checking it out and checking out Charlie's story, and all of his stuff's going to be in the description. And thank you very much for sticking with me. See ya.